Most people do not see God at work in their personal lives and therefore do not know how to join Him. This Divine Appointments podcast is to encourage you in your faith, to open your eyes to seeing God's hand at work. My hope and prayer is that by hearing these stories, you too will engage where God is already working and discover God's mission for your life. Welcome to our new podcast edition, the board meeting. Welcome to the board meeting. This is episode 2.
Episode 2. All right, Meredith. What's the board? Why do you have us doing a podcast on a board meeting? What's this about?
Well, the whole point of this is we have made fun of ourselves for a while that we get up extremely early, like 4:30 in the morning. And
there's a story behind
sleep
that.
Really late at night.
Can I tell the quick story behind that? The story behind that is it's Meredith's fault. I was a night owl. High school, college, especially college. It was, you started studying after dark. You stayed up till 1 or 2 in the morning studying, blah, blah, blah. But Meredith, with her crazy OBGYN lifestyle, I have completely converted to her where I am dying at 7:30 at night. And we're waking up at literally 3:30, 4. Usually it's 4 o'clock, 4 to 4:30. But anyway, so I have fully converted to her schedule.
We're old people now.
Yep.
But in the mornings, we have our board meeting, our family board meeting. We talk about the week, talk about the calendar, what are we going to do, what we have to do, what our kids have to do. A long time ago, I had a legal pad and mapped out written down for the week where all 3 boys had to be each night, what activities, what sport, church, here, there, everywhere.
It was the only way we could keep it organized. Yes, we had iPhones, we had all that kind of stuff, but we literally had to go day by day with a piece of paper with times per day on there to be able to know
call and
where everybody had to be, what time everybody had to be, where we had to be. Yeah.
And not only was it just a practical board meeting, but also spiritual board meeting, like talk about things going on in the family and make sure we knew what the kids were going through, what we needed to talk about. And so we're inviting you to join us on this board meeting.
And what we realized over the years is that it's the simple way of saying it puts our family on the same page. It's the 2 of us getting on the same page for our family. And so we just kind of thought, or Meredith sort of thought, that maybe you guys might get something out of the weirdness that we are, which is what we do. And so what we said last week is that it starts with having the only requirement, the only money you have to spend for the board meeting is you have to buy a coffee pot that has a timer on it so it'll be ready.
I'm sure what you're going to say.
That's what I said last week. So the coffee pot is set for 4:30 in the morning. And at 4:30 in the morning, the coffee is ready. And unfortunately these days, sometimes we're even up before that. But the coffee is ready and the board meeting begins. So I read real quickly one of our board meetings just to give you a taste for it. Mm-hmm. One morning this past week, we woke up and it's about an hour usually before Meredith has to be at work. Now the board meeting doesn't really have to be an hour. If you don't have that kind of a lifestyle, you just need you need to take 15 minutes to get on the same page. So really the most important thing is the schedule, making sure the 2 of you are talking, you're on the same page, and the kids are covered.
And I have plenty of people that do this at night.
Yeah.
We're just the early morning people.
Right. But the reason you set your clock about an hour before you'd have to get in the shower and get ready for work is we actually use it also as a time to do something we enjoy, some television show, because we fall asleep so early at night, something we were watching the night before, so we'll turn it back on that morning to finish it. And so one day, this particular day, that morning, we woke up at 4:30 to the sounds of our oldest son cooking a ribeye steak in the kitchen. Crazy. I'm like, what is going on in our kitchen?
Steak, yeah.
And he was literally cooking a steak because he's been reading so much about nutrition, so he decided he needed to cook his own steak at 4:30 in the morning before he went to work. But and then we turned on the television show. We were watching various clips from the fires and
in Los Angeles,
the Los Angeles fires, and we probably watched for a good 30 minutes, just clip after clip after clip about what was happening out there.
And just how I was talking to someone this week who has family in California, and they say that they're so used to it all the time, so it kind of seemed like it took everyone by surprise. And obviously there's a lot of criticism about not having enough warning from government officials, but when you hear some of the people talk, it's like, yes, there are wildfires, yes, they're in the hills, yes, they're burning, but they're just kind of, I guess like we are with tornadoes, they're going around doing their normal activities. And then you
thinking it
heard
won't be
some
too bad this time.
urgency, right? You heard some people say, urgency, urgency. Oh, you have no time. Get your belongings and get out quickly. And then they started having to really rush and just pack everything they could take.
So what lesson did you and I go after we saw these, and they were, some very sad videos, and it just, once you realized what was going on, the how serious it was, what did it make us ask each other?
What would we take?
What would you take?
If we had 20, 30 minutes to grab things from our house?
If you had, this is a way of changing, getting you off of your day-to-day routine, worrying about what's happening at the office, worrying about when our next vacation is 2 months from now, all the kind of frivolous stuff we care about, or even non-frivolous, but ultimately aren't important. So what the fire made us do is say, all right, what would you go take?
What would you take?
If you had 20 minutes and there was a good chance that everything you left behind would be gone when you came back, what would you take? And I'm not even ready to answer that. Maybe in another video, but I'm not ready to answer that yet. But it's a good exercise because there's a quote that I share with my boys fairly often and with Meredith, and the quote is, the quote is, a wise man thinks of death every day. And that sounds morbid, but it's not. What it means is a wise man wakes up and realizes that he only has X number of years to live, days to live, possibly moments to live. We don't know. So a wise man thinks of death every day. He allows that thought of death to prioritize his day. And granted, now, obviously we don't do that perfectly, and we don't think of death really, but if we're able to do that at least relatively often, we'll fine-tune our day in such a way that it's more meaningful. And that's what the fire's made us realize. It's like a wise man thinks of death every day. You have 30 minutes, get everything out of your house because everything you leave behind is probably going to go. And man, you'll figure out what's important to you quick.
And that's what you're saying is priorities and thankfulness, and just you and your family is really what matters. That's the most important thing.
So what was our board meeting that morning? Our board meeting that morning started by just watching some videos together and then talking about that.
Yeah.
Just talking. We do that a lot. We watch just shows, videos, news, whatever. And a lot of times half our board meeting is that.
Right. And here's really the thing.
I make Meredith watch physics show, which she hates. Physics shows, which she
That's
hates.
the only thing
The only thing she refuses to let me watch is the physics shows.
Astrophysics usually.
Yeah.
Or quantum physics.
She won't let me watch those.
Here's the theme scripture, Ephesians 5:15 through 17. Therefore consider carefully how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, taking advantage of every opportunity because the days are evil. For this reason, do not be foolish, but be wise by understanding what the Lord's will is. So make the most of every opportunity. And that's why we have this big clock here.
The clock.
It's where do you spend your time? And honestly,
a wise man thinks of death every day. A wise man realizes the clock doesn't stop for anyone.
Right.
And it's just ways of trying to prioritize so we don't get lost in the trivial. But
and we just try to keep each other and our families integrated, and it's like a united front.
All on the same page.
Yeah.
Trying to be.
So this time we wanted to share, Joel has these dad quotes, and
my boys throw them up in my face all the time.
You want to tell, the first dad quote is,
wait, which one?
Do your best.
Oh yes, this was an early dad quote. Do your best and be a leader. Do your best. Simple. Do your best and be a leader.
Be a leader.
Should I tell the story where
Tell
it came
the dad quote story.
Where that came, well, honestly, it was, all three, because of Meredith's schedule, I would be the one that would drop the kids off in the morning. We live very close to JA, but we still took them, the boys didn't walk, we'd drive them to school every morning. So I was the one that would do that. And so this would have been, Will, our oldest son, who's now graduated college, he was, I'm sure, maybe, how old was he when we moved over here?
Oh, I think it was like
8th grade? 8th or 9th grade. So he was 8th or 9th grade. John would have been, Reed would have been 2 years younger. John would have been 3, still in elementary school. Anyway, so as we're going to school, right as they're about to get out of the school, I always tell them,
I had to repeat it to you.
Yeah, I would say, do your best and be a leader. And then what it developed into is I would say, do your best. And as they're getting out of the car, they would repeat back to me and be a leader.
They did it, yeah. You did it in elementary school.
Oh, yeah, I guess it was probably before we even moved right here.
Yeah.
So anyway, do your best and be a leader came from just some probably podcast I was listening to, and I thought, yeah, but that's what you need to teach young men. Well, young people in general, but especially boys. So I would say it to them every single day. They heard me say that hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times.
So if you see a Charleston boy,
all you have to do is say, do your best. Their first words out of the mouth is going to say, and be a leader.
And
it's
be
like
a leader.
In their head.
And so we have a story about being a leader. There was some bullying going on at the school in the locker room, boys' locker room, junior high.
It was probably eighth grade
ninth,
football, maybe
like
ninth grade.
So they were having a conversation about bullies and how to act, and Dad said the greatest day of my life would be.
Well, I started that. Well,
yeah, tell them the whole story. Yeah.
Well, I hit well, what I told him is the greatest day of my life would be if I got called by the Jackson Academy principal or head of school and said, "Come get your son. He's been suspended." And I found out he was suspended because he was in a fist fight with someone to stop them from bullying someone else. And I told him, I said, "You do not," and I was as serious as I can be. Is you do not tolerate that. It is not good enough to be against bullying. You stop it. Mm-hmm. And if it exists and you have to step in and you get suspended, I said, I'll pick you up from school and we'll go get food and we'll go get ice cream. It'll be the greatest day of my life because I want boys who stand up for what's right regardless of the consequences. And so, yeah, we've had that conversation multiple times that it's not good enough to be against something. If something's wrong, you need to take personal responsibility and deal with it. And so I tell my boys, get in a fight if you have physical. If you have to be physical to protect someone who's being bullied, you do it. And we'll deal with the consequences afterwards.
And we're actually helping Reed, our middle son, is the youth director at Hillcrest Baptist Church right now, and we're helping him with the younger boys. And we're talking about the fruit of the Spirit. So we were reminded of this story today because Joel said we're going to do gentleness this week. We're just doing a word each week, because we have a narrow attention span.
About 4 minutes, max.
So he said that when he was reading about gentleness, that it means...
It's just a great definition. People think gentleness is soft, girly, kind and gentle.
And these are a bunch of boys. So.
That is not what the biblical idea behind gentleness is. Gentleness is, I love this, it's great. It's power under control. And that's a very different understanding. What gentleness is a person who has the power and the ability to physically, emotionally, or in any way harm you. They have the power to do that, but that's not what gentleness is. The characteristic in you that takes that power that is within every person. Boys, it's probably more physical. Girls, it may be more emotional. They have the power to use those things negatively, but gentleness is that power under control and used in the right way. So that's what being gentle is yeah, you may have a lot of power, but a gentle person uses it under control.
And you said that about Jesus was our example of that on the earth when he would have anger like the money changers in the temple. And
he made a whip and drove grown men out of the money changers, throwing over their stuff and taking away their livelihood in the process. Mm-hmm. That's not gentle in the way we think of gentle. That's not being nice and kind.
Yeah.
No, that's being very physical, using the power he had,
but under control,
mm-hmm. to do it for what's right.
For what is right. Mm-hmm. That's right. So, we'll often share probably Dad quotes because there have been many through the years. Mm-hmm. But in closing, I just thought this scripture we were reading was very applicable to that, and that's Joshua 24:14 through 15. So when you think about teaching your kids, this comes to mind. This is Joshua, and he's speaking to the Israelites, and he says, "Now obey Yahweh, the Lord, and worship him, serve him with integrity and loyalty. Put aside the gods your ancestors worshipped beyond the Euphrates and in Egypt, and worship Yahweh. If you have no desire to worship Yahweh, then choose today whom you will serve, whether it be the gods whom your ancestors worshipped beyond the Euphrates and the gods of the Amorites in the land that you are now living. But I and my family will worship the Lord."
Right. Knowledge is not enough. Personal responsibility and loyalty is the definition of worship and worshiping which God you're going to worship. Knowledge is not enough. It's personal responsibility and loyalty.
And you kind of draw the line in the sand. That I think of a picture of our family unit, and you as the father, the leader under God, is my family. We intend to serve the Lord, and we intend to raise our children that way, and they still have free will, and they can, turn back, but we will be very forceful in that.
Yeah. And to tie it back to why we have our board meetings and why we think everybody should have at least a 15-minute board meeting is none of that happens if the husband and wife are on the wrong page or on two different pages or pushing two different agendas or selfishly chasing that I want a boys' night out and I want a girls' night out and I want to go two different places today. It's just not about that. God didn't establish the boyhood, your boyfriend, the guys, or the girlfriends. He didn't establish that as the first institution. He established a family.
Right.
And a family is the key institution to mature the husband and wife and to raise up kids in the way they should go. So if we're not spending just a few minutes every day getting on the same page, all the rest is futile.
And every couple's different, every family's different, every personality set is different. It's like his strengths, her strengths. It's just so neat to see how God puts people together. Our oldest son, Will, is psychology major. We call him our psychoanalyst of the family.
He's our young Jordan Peterson within the family.
If you know Jordan.
If you know Jordan Peterson.
But he tells us what our personalities are and how we fit together, and we get analyzed quite frequently.
About every morning.
but other couples, the male might be gifted in this way and the female this way, and it's just so neat to explore those differences and see how they complement each other. Mm-hmm. There's so many things that I couldn't do if I didn't have Joel, and it's just neat to see how God develops those talents and strengths.
And from a male standpoint, to fight against male selfishness, I want to do what I want to do. You have to look at your wife and your family as your clan. We'll use that term. Mm-hmm. As your clan, as the tribe at which you have to protect, grow, expand, and create to make your tribe successful. So as a man, you have an inner desire to protect your tribe. And if you're not careful, though, especially in our culture today, it goes away from protecting my wife and my kids and doing what's best for our tribe, and instead it turns into doing what's best for me. And men just tend to be that way. We'll be a little more alone. We're loners, and we tend to be more narcissistic and selfish, or just more alone. We're going to go it alone, and the counterbalance to alone is not a guy's night out. It's getting on the same page with your family. I better be quiet now.
All right. Well, welcome and goodbye.
Yes, Steve. Is it officially over?
Yes.
The board meeting is adjourned.
Welcome and join us in this journey of the board meeting. Thank you.
Yep. See you next time.
Thanks so much for watching this episode. Now you engage where God is at work. Please make sure to like and subscribe so you will be notified of future episodes.